Hello, Greg. Happy New
How are
Year.
you?
Can you give us an update on the rumors about a player like Isco coming to the Galaxy and the possible return of Christian Pavón and what these players could bring to the team if they fit to your style for the season ahead?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like every offseason that players are rumored to be coming here, whether it's Pavón or Isco or others. What I'd say is we review all of our potential options. With Christian, obviously, it's not a simple situation, nor is there really any fire where there might be smoke on that one. In terms of other players and other options that that are in consideration for our open spots, nothing to specifically report on any of those. I will say that conversations that have happened for our potential DP spot are out there, and conversations are going on, and also how we're going to manage that will kind of play itself out, I think, over the course of this month. And we'll keep pressing forward on that. But there's nothing specific on any of those rumors or narratives that are really in play in the grand scheme of things.
Greg, how has the offseason, with you taking on the new roles, how has that impacted your preparation for this season?
Not too different, to be honest. Over the last 2 years since I arrived, it's been a process of behind the scenes. It's been building some of the infrastructure in the club, putting our scouting department together to be able to come to these moments and be ahead of the game, be already in conversations, be proactive, have our targets, have the players that we're after for the positions that we need. So we've been doing that, continuing to build and do that work behind the scenes this offseason, no different than where we've been. We're just further along. Our scouting department is much more built out than it was ever before. Our global expanse, I guess, and networking within our scouting department is greater than it's been ever before. So that's been underway. Obviously, roster building. We've had a lot of inquiries about players inside of our roster this year. We just have a lot of clubs have reached out and had interest in different players. So it's always assessing opportunities and trying to make the best decisions for our group going forward. Understanding that I think we now have a roster that people see as having value and they're players of interest. So we're just managing all of those incoming inquiries. At the same time, we're looking at our options to fill out our roster for this season. We don't want to make a ton of changes, but we want to be specific and trying to take another step forward this year. We felt like we were consistent and finding our level towards the end of the season, and so we want to try to build off of that. So doing that stuff, working with the academy staff, working with other soccer operations departments has been stuff that I've been doing, maybe in a little bit different capacity in this offseason than in priors, but it's every offseason is the same. You're reviewing your roster, you're making assessments on how to continue to improve.
Hey, Greg.
How are you?
Got a couple of things for you. In terms of the DP spot, are you targeting one particular area on the field, or do you have several options that you could go?
Yeah, I think, as we look at the DP spot, we see it as more than one play, because we've got 2 or 3 options additions that we think we can make to this roster as we move between now and the start of the season. So it's about more things. It's about complementary pieces here. It's about finding a DP, but also the other complementary piece or 2 pieces that fit with that to build out the pieces of the puzzle that we think can improve our team. We'd like to continue to get more production out of the front half of our field, whether that's from the wing positions. We like where our midfield has grown into over the course of the second half of the season, but making sure, with the addition of Memo and Daniel coming along and others, that we have enough depth and enough quality in that midfield to sustain what's going to be a lot of games this season with all the different competitions, but continue to support our 2 strikers with additional wing support and more production out of the wings as we push through the season. So again, I don't ever see it as one piece at a time. I think it's how the pieces fit together. So as we assess our options for our open spots, it's putting the puzzle together. It's complementary pieces, not just one piece. So
Talk a little bit about the challenges of building this roster, given the restrictions in the summer transfer window.
Yeah, it's. The first thing you want to do when you hear about something like that is try to get on the right side of it, try to get it taken care of, get behind you, reassess exactly where you're at. build your resources to then try to go out and fill in the pieces that you want to fill in. So with a couple of quick moves, we were able to kind of hit the reset on that, then reassess what our resources are to continue to move forward. For us, it's a pretty clear path. We have good resources to make again, like I said, 2 to 3 good sound moves here before the season starts. And now it's just a matter of timeline because we don't have the summer window to look abroad. So now it's maybe things that we thought might be summer potentials. We try to slide a little bit forward into this window instead of pushing it out into a longer timeline. So it's the good part of having a scouting department that's out in front of things and conversations that are already in motion versus being reactive to the situation. So like I said, I think we got on the right side of the situation. There's never a perfect thing, but we're on the right side of it, and now we're moving forward, and it's kind of that part of it's behind us for now.
How big of a handicap do you think that will be?
It's tough to say. Last year as we were building the team, the summer window was a massive one for us, and the additions. We were still in that initial first build of trying to get that defensive midfielder, the attacking midfielder that we had been talking about for 18 months prior to that. So having those two pieces, I think we've been solidified in our midfield, and now it's what are those next pieces to help us to find another level. So I think we can. Time will tell, but I think we're in a good position that we have stability within our group for the most part, and now it's again just a couple pieces that we think can help us find another level.
As sporting director, has that changed what your authority is in terms of bringing in talent, in terms of deciding who's going to play for this team?
Yes and no. I would say not a ton. However, where I feel we're more set up and more prepared is that a lot of work is being done ahead of time versus stuff that when I initially got here was somewhat reactive because departments weren't full, options weren't on the table. There was a lot of internally us getting used to what are the profiles of the players that we want to get, who's available, and again being 6 months ahead of the schedule versus reacting to what that window specifically has available. So I think as we look forward, it's really trying to again assess what we have, and that's the other thing I would say. Where we are now, we know what our pieces are, and we know how we can find the pieces that fit. When you're in a rebuild at the beginning in the first couple seasons, and you're changing 17 players, you don't know exactly how those pieces are going to fit. You try to create an image in your head based on the profiles of the players, but then when you fit them together, you have to see if those pieces really fit and complement each other. And now this is kind of that phase where we know what we have and we need to add the pieces. That's where Gaston and Ricky were very specific additions to what we felt was a group that needed those additions. So in terms of authority, I obviously will give the profiles and the positions and have the final, these are the guys that we want, as long as the deals come together and fit inside of the financial means and all that of what the club has to offer. So it's never just a one-person thing in this. We all know that. It's a collaborative effort, and it takes everybody to do the work and ultimately to make the right decisions at the right value and all that stuff.
Sporting director, is that comparable to general manager in the classic way that it's thought of in sports? And how is the position similar or different from what you had in Toronto? In Toronto, you had Tim as your GM.
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit different dichotomy, but it seemed that that was a working relationship
Sure.
there, and now you've got, I suppose, with Jovan and other people here.
Yeah, sometimes I think these terms between sporting director, technical director, general manager, sometimes they can, depending on how they get defined in any individual club, can have crossover in different ways. For me, it really comes down to technical operations more than things like, I'm not the one who's necessarily negotiating a contract and doing a contract. I'm identifying the player and giving the profile and looking at the guys who are brought in front of us, collaborating on who's the right fit for us. There'll be other people who are maybe doing what some would see as the general manager role in terms of negotiating, putting the numbers together. I know what they are. They're not something that I am every day, that I am crunching spreadsheets, let's say. For me, it's laying out the technical vision of the club, how we want to play, what our principles are, how those go down through the academy. I know every player in the academy. I know their name. I know their face. I know where they are in their trajectory towards the next step. I discuss that with our academy director. So I know everything that's going on when it comes to the technical operations, the soccer operations. when we run into challenges or things that we need to try to grow or develop inside of that those things will come through me. And then there's a whole business side or a financial side that goes into making those things happen and execute and all that kind of stuff, which I don't have the man hours to do all of those things. But in terms of vision, it's to help lay down the vision so that the dots connect on the technical side for us.
Does Jovan answer to you, or is it a more parallel?
Yeah, Jovan is under me in this discussion, but it's a very collaborative effort. For me, the way we create and have built our structure is, in a way, it's this expert-driven. I don't need to be the expert of everything, but at some point, somebody has to make a decision as it's relative to where we're going with some of this stuff. And each person that we're putting within our departments needs to be the expert and build a department that is then bringing back the best possible solutions inside their department for us to move forward and connect towards our vision. And so it's a managerial thing in many ways, and keeping people on task and towards a direction. It's not me in the middle of doing everything. I have one thing to do, which is to win games and build a team, and at the same time just try to keep everybody on the same page so we have one collective idea when it comes to the technical vision of our direction.
Yeah, my last question is do you want to see Javier and Dejan on the field together? How can you make that work? And just looking at the players that you have, do you have somebody that you think can play underneath, or are you looking for someone underneath who can support one or both of them?
Yeah, I think there are certainly ways that we could get them both on the field together. I answered this question a lot last year. We'll start the season off answering it again. I'm not a proponent of a straight 4-4-2, especially when your 2 9s are similar types of players. If you have a 9 and a 10, or a 9 and a 9.5, and you're looking at Robbie Keane and Landon, that's a different profile of a 4-4-2. These are 2 goal-scoring strikers who are out and out thinking, how do I put the ball in the back of the net? And for our style of play and being able to overload in certain areas of the field and keep possession and dominate the ball, it's not always the clearest. There are ways for us to do it, and we're gonna play around with those ways so we can look at that. I'm more, and I've said this before, I'm not so married to one system as some people are. I think that within our principles of play, within our style of play and our vision of play, we can do different things in terms of our shape and our structure and still stick very consistent with what our principles are and how we want to play. The question is ultimately when you're on the field, where are the gaps? Where are you creating overloads? Where are you trying to get to? How are you trying to unbalance the opposition? How are you creating chances? And where do you want to recover the ball? And how do you want to protect yourself? I mean, that's the game, regardless of what shape you have. So we will look at certainly ways that the 2 of them can be on the field together under the premise that we can still create our overloads, we can still dominate the ball, we can still defend well, all those kinds of things. So we certainly have ideas on that. And it's going to come down to, when we get into those scenarios, can both of them do the work together that we need without the ball, and all those kinds of things. So, but I love it. Like when you have 2 guys, one that put in 18 last year, one I think had about 14 last year. It's certainly a challenge that is presented to the coach to say, how do you get these 2 guys out there on at least some, if not a lot of occasions. So it's something we're looking into for sure, and we will play with a bit.
Hi, Greg. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Some rumors around Douglas Costa certainly being down in Brazil, and I don't know how much credence to give those rumors. Maybe you can talk to him a little bit. But if he was down there having conversations with other teams, was he doing that with the permission of the LA Galaxy? Yeah.
So Douglas is on his way back. His initial delay was as it happened. He needed to get a new passport in the off season. The passport came in. When the passport came in, we needed to get the visa stamp on it, which took a little bit of time. In the process of that, we were aware of any conversations that might have been going on or being had. And for us, if a player doesn't want to be here, we're not forcing a player to be here, but it's a collaborative plan. If he wants to be here, then he'll be here, and we'll line up with him and keep progressing him. I thought the second half of his season was better than the first half. I thought, once we physically got him to where he could be a contributor to the group and be out on the field on a consistent basis and do that, I felt like we were getting to a much better spot. So, but for me, the game is it's also very mental and emotional, and you've got to want to be here and be a part of this and be happy in our surroundings and to deliver what we need you to deliver. So we were aware of things, but ultimately it's with an eye on doing what's best for us and with him as well, assuming that he's all in when he comes back to the Galaxy.
Do you have any uncertainty about his future with the Galaxy for this year?
I don't have any uncertainty, no.
Whenever it comes to summer transfers, obviously there's a restriction on internationals. What exactly are you allowed to do in that summer transfer window? Are you allowed to go down to USL? Are you allowed to pull players from within MLS?
Domestic
Canada?
business.
But does Canada count that? A lot of Canadian players, Chris Mavinga, you just signed, right, came in with an ITC,
Sure.
and there was been a general understanding that there was sort of an ITC ban. Is that lifted in case of domestic in Canada?
Yes, I believe it's MLS business essentially, and not international transfer business. And I would put Canada inside of the domestic business inside of our league. Yeah.
The other part of that is there's been rumors about an intra-league transfer system coming up. Right now, you guys are only allowed to trade funny money back and forth between budgetary devices with Jam. With that coming up, does that also provide you possibly an opportunity in the summer to make changes just domestically?
Yeah, if those ideas, things like that, get approved, then I assume those would be internal business, because it's not a specific ban on it's international transfer ban. It's not necessarily an internal domestic transfer ban. So my understanding is yes, once we get approval on all that, and then we'll have a better definition of whether that fits into our situation or whether that's open season for us in the summer. So, but it's an interesting. In the grand schemes, it's an interesting mechanism to come inside of our league. I will say I was in a meeting with all of the coaches about 3 years ago, and we were discussing some of these things, and it was brought up that we should have an internal transfer market, because we should be the masters of our own market first and foremost. Before anyone is a master of our market, we should be able to put values on our players internally. And so I think it's a great move. Hopefully it gets approved and passed, and we're all moving forward, and it becomes something. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it will open the doors for especially a lot of younger players that maybe are having to leave the league for one reason or another. Maybe there's opportunity to move inside of the league. And it might continue to create some, I don't want to say tiers, but it might create some movement inside of our league where teams who are looking to develop can also create resources inside of our league. I really think it's a good next step for our league, so I look forward to seeing how it evolves.
Final question. With the cheating scandal that's gone on, and now you guys having to deal with the consequences of that, do you feel that there's any sort of outside look at the LA Galaxy, or do you feel that you have to do any repair to the image of what the LA Galaxy are out there right now? Do you feel that the image overall has taken a hit?
I don't know. I think I'll be open and honest. I don't read anything, and I don't have time to read anything, and I don't read anything, so I don't know what the image is. What I know is internally, couple things. One is we want to be inside of the rules, and we want to play the game the right way inside of the rules to build our roster and build our team. The second is we're always going to push the edges of what it is, because I think the Galaxy have always been a standard bearer in terms of driving the league forward. This isn't specifically the right way inside of that, but there always have to be teams challenging what the norms are inside of MLS if we're going to keep moving forward and having those discussions. And the DPs came about because of the Galaxy, and so there's always teams who are going to be driving this league forward. Atlanta's, the teams that are bringing big players, transferring them out. Those teams are going to keep moving this league to the next level so that we can compete with the rest of the world, right? So from that perspective, we're going to keep doing that, and we're going to keep pushing. We need to stay inside the lines. We're going to internally, we've been looking at even better solutions to make sure just that we're conducting not business the right way, because I think we do, but making sure that we're taking advantage of every tool we have to keep being right there at the forefront of what teams are doing in our league to keep making themselves better. So that's something we're always going to be leaning into. We're never going to take a step back off of that.
Hey, Greg, just a quick few ones for me. Obviously, I just wanted to ask, there was rumors about Aaron Long potentially coming to the LA Galaxy. Just curious, how true were those? How close were you guys, if that was true, that you guys were going to potentially sign him?
Yeah, look, Aaron, a lot of free agents that were out there in the market. Every time we go into an off season, we feel like we're a destination for free agents, so long if they fit inside of our style of play. They're that fit inside of our locker room, all those kinds of things. So there was a lot of free agents that we were having dialogues with, that we were talking to agents. Again, when deals come to deals, all the pieces have to fit together in order for the deals. But we spoke to multiple center backs because we were looking at in that position. Obviously, you look at Memo and different free agents that were out there. Chris, who we ended up bringing. So we think because LA and the LA Galaxy is a great destination, that in our honest opinion is that the free agency should be a market that we can do well in, and so we have those conversations. So certainly somebody we spoke to and like many others, and at the end of the day, we didn't close out a deal, and why is ultimately everybody's choice, because it doesn't get to the end. So, but it was like I said, he and others were part of discussion for the roles that we had. So.
Yeah, with that said, obviously, this team has talked about, winning trophies, winning championships. There's another team across town who obviously won. How much, I don't know if motivation or anything like that, but what the other team did, and potentially, players out there are looking at, there's two teams in LA. One team, has Champions League aspiration, or can play Champions League, or could play more competitions of what they did in the previous season. How much more is that you guys think that you guys have to have a real successful season this season to attract players in the future?
Well, I think we need to keep building on what we're doing. Look, when it came down to it for me, if we have a more consistent regular season, maybe we play that playoff game at our place. It took them to the last minute to beat us at their place. So I think we need to focus on ourselves. We need to focus internally, make sure we make good decisions, sound decisions for us, build our departments. I like our style of play. I think we have diametrically opposed style of plays, which means we don't necessarily look for the same players nor want the same players in some ways. We're a team that dominates the ball, creates overloads, has possession, breaks you down. They're a team that is setting up to press you and looking to play you off the counter, and through virtue of good press, they can have their fair share of possession. They hurt you in the transition. They hurt you in those moments. We're different teams. I love that, because in our market, sometimes when you have different teams who do it different ways, it's a battle of styles. It's a battle of different things. That's, to me, is what's the beauty. Part of the beauty of this rivalry is that we do it differently. And we're going to lean into that. As I said, in terms of us, we put pressure on ourselves. We have 5 championships in there that put enough pressure on us about getting back to where we need to be to put the next one on the table. We want to be in Champions League. We're playing in multiple competitions this year. We're going to compete in all of them wisely, understanding that we could be up around 50 games this year, which is a heavy carry for any team, because it challenges your depth, it challenges what's important, and it's a heavy lift. For them, they're going to have add Champions League to that, which is another heavy lift, and more games. So we're going to lean into this competition. We felt like we were right there this year. Ultimately, congratulations to them, because they got it across the line and they lifted 2 trophies. But for us, this is our own rebuild and our own climb to the summit again, where we've been many times. But we've got to concentrate on ourselves, and we're going to lean into who we are in this, and may the best team win as we continue to battle at it.
Hey, Greg, nice to see you. With the open DP spot, the last DP, Kevin Cabral, qualified as a young DP, and he allowed you guys to keep all 3 of your U22 spots. Is the priority for the next DP to qualify as a young DP?
We have options for that, but what I would say is one of the things that we have in our role, in our plan, in our roles as the group, and we continue to move forward. We like the youth fund spots. We think it's really a way to extend your depth and have value inside of your roster. It makes a lot of sense. You're seeing a lot of that happen around the league. It creates competition in your roster. Now when you're looking at multiple competitions as well to compete and try to be successful, there are different ways and different mechanisms to where you can have a youth fund player, or youth DP. There's other ways that you can continue to have access to those positions. We're looking at all of those and in terms of how we continue to move forward. We know what our plan is. You guys will hear what our plan is as we move forward through this month and start announcing who and where and how that's all going to play out. So, but we fancy the youth fund spots a lot. We think they're important for us.
You guys traded away 2 center backs, and you guys signed Chris Mavinga. Are you satisfied with your depth at that position, or are you guys still looking to maybe add more players?
We're pleased with our depth right now. And I've been saying this for a while, this is going to be the year that Jalen Neal needs to take a step forward and provide us with some depth and growth in the position. We have 3 veterans now, I think, that are there. Plus, we have Eric as a 4th veteran that's there, and we have Jalen, who is a player who, for me, is ready to start to step into the first-team environment. He's going to be challenged through preseason in a number of ways, which you'll be hearing about shortly. And I think he's ready to take another step. So we plan to add to our depth by Jalen becoming a first-team member really on a more consistent basis.
Hey, Greg, Samuel Grandsir, another player that's drawn entrance from Europe. You expect him here soon? And also any injury updates? We know Johnny Perez is still dealing with his surgery. Am I correct?
Yeah, Johnny's in the return to play. He's a few weeks away from being integrated into the group for full preseason. But he's making the right move and right steps forward. Adam Saldana, off of his injury from a year before, he had the hardware that was in his ankle removed, and so he's now joining back into training. He feels a lot better than he has since in the last year, just getting that stuff out of there. So it'll be nice because we really didn't see him last year at all, but he had a good season, nice season the year before, so he's come back in the mix. As it relates to Sam, we're working with Sam through he's had some personal issues that have arisen in the last week or so, which is why he isn't here, and we're just working through those things with him on a personal level with he and his family. And those, we'll have those solutions here hopefully in the next week or so, and he'll either be here or he won't be here. We'll see how that plays out. But it's family related, it's not football related, and that's why we've got to work with the young man about what that looks like.
And also with G2 moving to MLS Next Pro, how does that affect the challenges guys might get? I assume the talent was a little tougher or style was tougher in USL, but how does that transfer to MLS Next Pro?
Yeah, it will. Obviously, last year was the first season of MLS Next Pro. We didn't go in it because I think every league needs a couple years to go through the growing pains and for every club to figure out how they're going to really approach it. So we'll see this year in terms of where the level is and what that will mean for our first team players who we seek to get some extra games or get some minutes or to bring along. Last year it was a little bit more of a development league. It was an area where first team players can get games, but it was usually younger players, and it was a younger league last year. But we'll see now that everybody's in it and it's a part of everybody's system and nobody's in USL anymore, what kind of step forward that the MLS Next Pro. For us, it's going to be a part of our system. It'll be a little bit more on the development side than the first team side. And if we have players that who we think aren't going to play a significant role within our group, our decision is going to be whether we want them in there or do we want to find them alone or a situation where they can be in a slightly different environment to keep moving forward. So that's also part of what we're doing on the side, is making sure that we have the right level of options and opportunities for all of our players as we keep thinking about not just the present but the future for them.
And one more with Sam, is it either he's here or he moves to Europe? Is that where you think you're gonna come to that point?
Yeah, quite frankly, it'll be either he's here and he's back with us, or likely he would be back in France. Again, it's an issue that is more personal than professional, and depending on how the personal issues get sorted and how we can help him and work through that will help us decide that. Look, again, as I said to you before, as it related to Douglas, we all want players who are here and he wants to be here. It's more challenging than that sometimes in life, and so it's just working through that with him. And he's got to be free of mind if he's going to return back to be the best player he can be for us. And if there's a challenge with that, then he needs to also do what's best for him, and we got to do what's best for us. So it's a mutual thing. It's not an individual thing or anybody trying to do something outside of away from each other. Let's just say that.
What, third year here, Jonathan?
Yes.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on the group? Early days in training camp. How do you guys take that next step now after you guys have been here 2 years together already?
It's nice because we all know exactly how we want to play. We know what the expectations are from Greg, at least the players that have been here over the last couple of years. And there was kind of like a high turnover of players, especially in the first year, and then kind of again in the second year as well. And there's always ins and outs, but this season hopefully not as many. And it's more of a settled group. So it's kind of more stable this pre-season, I'd say, and should hopefully set us up for a good season.
Congratulations on getting engaged.
Thank you.
How was your off season outside of that?
It was good. Honestly, I spent most of the 2 months just back in England. Had one trip away. But my mum doesn't get to see too much of me, so she demands that I come home and spend as much time as possible. And that's what I did, basically, and just kind of lived my life as if I was still back at home for 2 months. And can be difficult sometimes finding like your routine and stuff and places to train and things like that inside of that. But it's always nice being home for a little bit, especially during Christmas and New Year's and stuff. So no, it was really good.
So far, how has the preseason been? You guys went through physicals, you did all that. What do you make of this team just in terms of their overall physical fitness?
It's good. I think we all realise it's actually a slightly younger group than we've had in the first 2 years. When you look around the locker room, it's quite a young group, and in that being one of the strengths is everyone's really fit. So the first 2 days have been a lot of running, and I'm now physically kind of feeling the effects of the first 2 days and trying to do goalkeeping training like I can move around the goal. But honestly, everyone's seemed in really good shape. I'm probably not the best person to ask whether their numbers were good or bad. I don't know, but everyone seems in good shape. No one's kind of dropped out or anything like that. And we know we've got a big one. We've got a double session today, but we've got a big one tomorrow in Pasadena as well. So everyone's a little bit nervous about that one.
I was going to ask you. You had a new contract in I guess middle of last year. Did you want to stay in LA? Is this a place that you want to be? And now that you're back for a considerable amount of time, do you feel like you have room to grow into this position?
Yes, this is a club where I think I said when I first moved here my first year that it felt like home straight away. I felt really settled, just felt like I connected with everyone, coaching staff, people around the stadium, the fans, everything just felt right. I felt comfortable on the pitch as well, on the field. And as I was entering, obviously, the start of last season, then halfway through, we started speaking, and because I knew that, my kind of guaranteed years without going into option years was coming to an end because I signed a 2-year. And all the talks were really positive, and it was pretty straightforward. Option years can be difficult. I've been in positions where you just don't know what's going to happen at the end of the season, and it's difficult being on the pitch and playing when you're not sure what's going to happen, and et cetera, et cetera. It's something we all have to deal with at some point. But to kind of get that sorted and agreed reasonably early, then helped me to settle for the rest of the season. And yeah, honestly, I'm really, really happy. I've got another 2 years at least here now, hopefully, and I just have to keep proving that I'm worth that contract now.
Hey, Jonathan, Happy New Year. Welcome back. You have another year, with Joan Araujo. You get to know Raheem Edwards a little bit more, Martin Caceres. How are you feeling about this group and, those players and what you guys could potentially do this season? Yeah,
I think we all have a really positive feeling because of the way we finished last season. The last 10 games of the regular season, especially with Gaston and Ricky coming in as well, and we found some consistency in the formation and the way that we defended, and it just felt a lot more safe. It felt like we found a formula that worked, and now it's just tweaking that and slightly improving it. And I heard Greg say earlier, obviously LAFC had an amazing season, etc., but really we went to their place and we were probably the better team for the vast majority of the game. The game kind of got a bit disconnected in the second half, and then we conceded from a set piece, and then the game's done. But really, we knew that we had the momentum last season, and now it's just about kind of bringing that feeling and that momentum into this season.
Obviously, the first game of the year is going to be against them. how excited or how motivated are you for that game, but not just that game, but what it means to be at the Rose Bowl, Pasadena, some historic games have been played there.
Yeah, it's big. I'm really looking forward to it. It's kind of a showcase game, isn't it? At a place I've never played at. So I don't know what to expect, honestly, to play at the Rose Bowl. We visited and had a look around. But when the stadium's full and then you're getting out there and warming up, then you kind of get a real feel for it. But yeah, I mean, every season, the first game of the season is always a big one, and then when it's a rivalry game on top of that and everything, it just makes it extra special. So yeah, it's a game that I'm sure both teams are really looking forward to.
Hey, Jonathan, Happy New Year and congrats on getting engaged.
Thank you.
From your perspective, I mean, you see the whole field all the time. Where do you think the Galaxy needs to sign players to make it better and more competitive this season compared to what happened last year?
I mean, that's more a question for the recruitment team and Greg, to be honest. But obviously, I guess we've lost a couple of wide guys. Sam's not here yet. Douglas isn't here yet. Kevin left. I think that was probably quite an obvious position, but it's not. It's really not my. It's not my area of. I'm not doing the recruitment in the office, so I don't know.
Tomorrow, you guys are going to the Rose Bowl? Is that when you go up the hill?
So yeah, we're going up the hill, I think. Anyway, yeah, we did it last season. Yeah. Honestly, it was Sorry? No, we're running. I wish I was in a car. But sometimes the hardest bit is coming down. You know, when you've done the run up and then you're kind of like slowly jogging or walking down, and then your quads are just burning. And maybe it's just me, I don't know. But I was like feeling, it was tough last season. But it's kind of like a good bonding exercise as well, where no one wants to give up, and everyone's helping each other up there. All the staff get involved as well, and it ends up being really good. So, and then last season we actually went to the Rose Bowl after, it was a good day. Yeah.
How many times up and down?
I think it's 6. Yeah. I don't know though. Don't quote me on that. 6 doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But it's quite a big hill. Do you know the one? Yeah. Yeah. It's really, really tough. And some boys find it easier than others. Where they used to train? Yeah. No.
In that graph where they park the cars.
Okay.
Where each one stepped on a manhole cover.
Oh, really? No, I didn't hear about that.
Oh, yeah.
Really? Yeah, I heard that. Yeah. That's never ideal, is it, when you're diving on grass? Oh, okay. Yeah, is it near the hill? Is that where it is?
It's like where the entrance is. It's right out of the grass, right out.
Oh, outside the Rose Bowl? Yeah. Oh, okay. No, I mean, maybe they did, but I don't remember it.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Thanks, Jonathan.
Cool. Cheers, guys. Nice to see you.
How you doing? Damien with the LA Daily News. Do you prefer Jose or Memo?
Memo, probably,
Memo,
better,
okay.
yeah.
What led you to the Galaxy? What other clubs were in contact with you and your agent, and what was the deciding factor to come here?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a few clubs in the mix, and I think the important thing that, the Galaxy showed a lot of interest that, they wanted me as a player, so it's the LA Galaxy, so, I think there's a historic club, a winning club, and just to be part of it is, it's an honor and a blessing to be here, so I'm excited.
You prefer playing in the center, on the wing, or what's your preference?
My preference is in the middle. Obviously, I've been in the middle, out wide, so I can do pretty much both. So I'm a pretty versatile player. So wherever Greg wants me to play, that's where I want to be on the field as much as possible.
And what has been your impression of the guys so far?
Good. I mean, they're super welcoming. I mean, they helped me a lot. Just getting in, knowing everybody. I'm getting face to name and, just getting to recognize everybody, and hopefully it's a good year for us.
I'm Scott French with Soccer America. Just your impression, it's very early, but your impression of the midfield as it exists now and your place within it.
Yeah, good. I mean, obviously a great group of players. Obviously I played against them as well, and, now playing with them, you get to learn their tendencies, how can I help them? How can they help me? Obviously, it's a little bit early, but as we progress and, I learn the tactics within the team, and hopefully it's a great group of guys that, we can perform at a good level when the season starts.
In what ways do you think you complement them?
I think, I can just, like I said, I'm a pretty versatile player, so as I can attack and some guys can stay back. So I'm pretty box-to-box midfielder. So obviously you have guys that hold a little bit more, so if they need to hold, then they'll be in that position. And then if they want me to attack, I'll go up, and obviously I can get back as well.
Aside from a loan stint at, was it Charleston?
Say that again?
You had a loan stint at Charleston. Aside from that, you've spent your entire career, most of your life in South Texas. What's it like coming out to California, and what's it like kind of, leaving home, so to speak?
Yeah, just my first year I left to Charleston, like as you mentioned, and I think it was time for a new opportunity, new air, new fresh air, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity for me to learn from the guys, learn from the club, and hopefully have that winning mentality to try to win MLS Cup, and I think that's what they aspire here every year. So I'm excited to be part of the group.
But on a personal level?
I think just for me, getting to move from home, and it's obviously scary sometimes, because you're moving. I have a family now, so I think more my wife is taking it harder than I am. Obviously, we kind of do the day-to-day, even if I was in Houston or, Florida, I do the same thing. I get to learn and meet new people, meet new players, and she has to stay at home. So I think for her, it's a little bit harder, also with the 2-year-old. But for me, I think it's a new opportunity for us, and we just get to learn on the fly.
Hi, Memo. Josh Kessman, corner of the Galaxy. When Greg approached you and you started having the early conversations, what was sort of his plan for you if you came to the Galaxy?
Yeah, I think he mentioned in our first phone call, he liked what he saw in me as a player. And, for me, I think most importantly, I think he was the first coach that called me. So that kind of made my decision a little bit easier to come to the team. And obviously, like I said, I played against the guys, and I love the way they play football, play soccer. And I think it just complements me well, and I can do everything possible to help the team out.
You seem to be somewhat of a fan favorite in Houston. I know that there were a lot of people who reached out and were probably a little sad that you were leaving. When you look at your role with the LA Galaxy and what Greg wants you to do you want to be a starter? Did you think you're coming in as a role player, maybe to come off the bench? What do you expect from this?
Yeah, I think for me, just work hard in preseason. Obviously, it's obviously Greg's decision on who starts and who doesn't. But it's internal competition, I think, everywhere you go. So I think here's going to be a great group of guys, and we're just going to keep pushing each other to make the starting 11, because obviously every player wants to play and be on the field. But we got to do everything possible if you're on the bench to help the team that's starting and push them just to earn a starting spot.
Thank you.
Hey, Gio Garcia of LA Soccer Hub. Welcome. I want to ask you. Obviously, you playing in the midfield. They got a bunch of depth right now with Ricky and all the players here. How's the practices been? From trying to get the balls from the back to trying to feed players like Dejan and Chicharito who are lethal. How is that coming from Houston now to have these type of players on your team?
Yeah, it's obviously different. You have different type of caliber players. Obviously, Greg likes the midfielders to play forward a lot, and I think I'm just getting used to that. Breaking lines, getting used to Chicha, who barely came yesterday, I believe. So just getting integrated and learn each player's tendencies, just to help the team and also help me, because obviously it's a different system, new tactics, and I want to learn them because those guys been here. So it's going to be a process, but I'm willing for this challenge and ready for whatever's to come.
Obviously, the Galaxy, they have big expectations. How are you excited, to potentially be with this team and what they can do this year in 2023?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's also what motivated me to come here. They always aspire to win MLS Cup. They always want to win a trophy. So I think for me, it was an easy decision to come here. And like I said, it's a great group of guys, great talent we got here. And, hopefully I can do my best to help the team out in any way possible.
That's all we have for you, Memo.
Right,
Thanks for your time.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.